I'm your host, Mysticraven. All right. So today I want to, I'm going to do some dailies and randoms and whatever, like I typically do. But we're going to have a discussion about critical chance. Now, it's kind of important that I go over this because ZOS nerfed crit chance. They also put a cap on critical damage output. But crit chance did take a hefty nerf 2 updates ago, or 2 DLCs ago, I want to say. And the problem that we are currently having, we're very dependent on one dominant trait, and that's precise. Sharpen trait is kind of like a hit and miss, depending on where you're at in your leveling or how much penetration you need, but there's no percentage modifier to pen, right? So when we go into passives and we take a look at something like light armor passives, we get these flat values, right? And especially like in penetration and our critical chance, right? So our critical rating. The multiplier is the precise trait. There is no other multiplier in the game for that. Not even in this the CP do we get that type of multiplier, right? So when we come into the CP, we get a critical chance, right? Multiplier. But when we take a look at this, we get a critical damage multiplier, and then we get another critical damage multiplier. We have no critical chance multiplier other than precise trait. None. And medium armor, we see the multiplier. Actually, I got to get this anyways, even though I don't build for whatever, but you see a multiplier right here, right? You also see, you get all sorts of multipliers everywhere across the board except crit chance. The only crit chance multiplier we get is precise. That's it. That's all we get. And that's the problem. Because until we get a multiplier, either in passive traits for armor or in the CP, all of your damage, every damage build is going to have a precise trait. There's no two ways around that. There's none.
This is taking
Zero. Now, Nirnholm, for example, has a multiplier to it for spell and weapon damage. We have even in Fighters Guild we get multipliers. But unless we're in PvP, we're not going to see a resurgence of a Nirnholm trait or anything other than a precise trait due to the circumstances. So that's unfortunately the hole we're stuck down. Let me go ahead and open that up here 1 second. But yeah, we're stuck. We're stuck with precise trait until further notice. And that's the truth of it all. Silver, hope you're having a blessed day. Thank you, Silver. I hope you're feeling better. I hope you're getting well. My prayers are with you. So yeah, there's a lot to be said when we're going to be taking a look at, oh my gosh, is ZOS going to ever address this? Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. And I think unless they do, we're kind of at that stuck point where we're going to be like, okay, we have many different traits that give multipliers, and we have many ways to obtain multipliers and passives, but we only have one multiplier in the game that applies to crit chance, and that is precise. And precisely. But unfortunately, you know, until we see another multiplier that gives us an equivalent or an indifferent value, we can assume that every DPS build, you can go anywhere on YouTube or on Twitch, look at any build, look at any whatever, if they're DPS, I promise you, everybody's going to be rolling a precise trait more than likely, unless they're not running a crit build. Or, you know, but yeah, it's just unfortunate. It's the nature of the beast, because, you know, even when you take a look at, you know, your major savagery, your major prophecy, you're getting what? A value. And there's going to have to be a multiplier somewhere along the lines that goes ahead and addresses the issue. Without it, we're stuck. One second. Appreciate it. I can breathe a little now. Oh man, I hope so, Silver. It's rough. So let's go ahead and get some dailies in. Well, randoms or whatever. I kind of held off on doing these last night because I was like, you know, I'm used to streaming in the day with you know, my healers or my tanks and acquiring my transmutation. But I was thinking to myself this morning, I was like, you know, I don't think anybody realizes how stuck we are. Ah, shit. My quest log's full. And I got pulled into a fight. Fuck. Well, I'm not gonna get this quest in. Do a roll dodge if you're questioning it. Oh shit. My other battery's charging. I should be able to finish, hopefully, this run. Let's just pray. Please help me. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was like, thinking this morning, I'm like, well, we're kind of put in a very precarious position because there is no other multiplier. Now we still have, you know, you still have critical or diminishing returns associated with any percentage of value, and at any time, you know, for example, if you went off the top of my head, let's say you were over 80% in previous to the nerf. If you were over 80% in critical value, and by the time the multiplier was applied, you would be over 100% crit chance. And unfortunately, once you exceed a certain threshold, you have a diminishing return, because guess what that does? It takes away from your values, right? Oh shit, balls. So that's always the thing. You got to think of everything as a limitation due to where you get your numbers, whether passive or gear. But I was like, man, I really wish ZOS would have implemented a percentage modifier into the CP system. I feel like the CP system is in the right direction in comparison to what we had, because there are certain things that are just a little not as valued, and unfortunately I think ZeniMax's going to have to address the reallocation, or the appropriate association, I should say, to CP gain. I like how they've addressed. Yeah. I do like how they've addressed a multitude of issues from the CP. We've always said that the CP was going to have to be addressed at one time due to the limited gains after a certain point. So they have addressed that in a nutshell, and I feel like that's why the CP system really does work in the favor, but it still needs some fine tuning. I always pay attention to what roll I'm doing and how I roll in this. Even though it's on normal, shouldn't kill me, but never know.
What vile evil is this?
All right.
I think I know where to find Lady Thorn. Push onto the cathedral while I search for clues here.
But yeah, so I was thinking to myself, fuck, they really gonna have to address things sooner or later. I think that it's gotten better, and I feel like these updates, especially with the idea between hybridization, and that is good. I would like to see the scaling system now be applied for like stam and mag scaling, like they've done spell and weapon. Address the monster sets and appropriately for those scenarios, because max stat scaling still applies to certain races. So what we have currently, we have races that are more predominant when they have base value of what? Spell and weapon damage scale. Or base value to scale, I should say. Base value to scale. And I was like, oh geez, man. We have races that have max stat capability, but unfortunately because of the proc sets and only scaling from spell or weapon damage, and passives that adhere to it, like Fighter's Guild, were stuck, right? We're kind of like, oh, okay, well, you're going to use Fighter Guild abilities on Magtoon, obviously now, and I said that was going to happen due to what? Scale factor. Based scale. And I was like, but now we don't have the association, the same association into like the Mages Guild. For, if you put in, your inner light, you're going to get a 5%, scale factor to your max magicka, but that's not apparent to what your max stamina. And even though like classes like Sork, right, like Stam Sork, benefit from abilities that will scale, that one of the only abilities that scale to max stamina. So I'm really hoping they address some of these issues down the pipeline and give us more capability to scale. That's what I would really like to see. And I would really like to see the CP system get a percentage modifier to critical chance. Because like I said, until they've addressed these issues, right, we're all stuck with precise. We are all stuck with precise on DPS. We are all stuck with it. There's no two ways around it. You're no DPS build. Well, like I said, unless they're building for crit, there's no other modifier, no percentage-based modifier that adheres to scale. And I was like, oh shit balls, man. And of course, I'm like, we should kind of address it. We should. But like I said, I think ZOS is on the right path. I feel like the CP system does allow them to make the modifications down in any scenario without full alteration or revamping. So I feel like this is a good pro that ZeniMax has implemented for any type of alterations without making it too like, oh my god. I know a lot of people weren't even happy about the new CP system, but I actually was. I actually felt like, it was less than perfect, especially like to heal. I felt like, they needed to address it initially, and they did, but it still could be fine too. And based on, like the Khajiit, to axes, we have the indifferent value associated, to that between those racials. But like I said, we need to see a little bit better control into indifferent value to prominent build setups, so we can make the adjustments appropriately. I think it'll give a lot more viable options when we talk about, any vet level building or, composition or things like that. Because as is, we still, racial selection's gotten better in comparison. But once again, unless now a race has, a scale base and from spell to weapon, we have an associated problem to what? Max stat racing, like Wood Elf, for example, which has a max stat value. And until we see a scale factor that associates monster sets or procs or something to that factor, or a percentage modifier associated into max scaling besides Undaunted, we're like Stam's kind of limited in the comparison, nor will Mag scale to stat Y, because unfortunately you've implemented sets that become a little bit more, penalization for scaling those values. And once again, I think down the pipeline, these issues should be associated, because not to say to get rid of the sets or to change the gameplay of the configuration that's been implemented, but to say, okay, do I want to run a set where, you know, I'm better off not having a max pool, or am I better, you know, do I want to make a build where it's more prominent for me to go ahead and use sets like Hulking Draugrs, or, you know, something that I can scale a base value to. And I think if we can address that, we got a lot more options, and I'm all for options. So, but precise, we need to see if we have any hope of getting out of the precise base trait in all build configurations. We have to have what, a percentage modifier that's either associated or apparent. This is why I felt like nerfing critical chance wasn't really a good idea, because it just puts everybody into same trait association, right? Because if you can get you know, modifiers or percentages up to whatever value, you're still going to need a base source in which your damage multiplier becomes apparent, whether that's critical damage modifier or base value modifier. And I was like, oh Jesus, man, you know, I mean, they're doing better. I mean, especially the hybrid scenario. I think that's been really good. You know, so. But like, you know, like crit heal now, unless I'm a Nightblade or a Sorc healer, I don't build crit heal anymore since those changes. I'm better off with a base value heal. I'm just so much better off looking towards base healing. Why? Because my base healing is so prominent, I don't need to worry about crit chance healing. I can heal enough without even having any critical healing apparent. So, and to adjust that appropriately, we have to do what? We have to nerf healing in general. Right, we gotta scale down the base values of the associated healing, knowing that modifiers are going to be applied. And we see all of these factors associated in what? In PvP. That's why healing is so dominant in PvP. You get one healer in PvP, well, now you have all of these problems. You know, I don't even want to be in this fucking thing. You know, I hate when people just want, like, let's go look for chests and stuff and all this. Forget this, forget this. Get me the fuck out of here, yes.
Make me work for it. The blood becomes even sweeter. Enough playtime. I thirst for blood. Let loose your blood.
I think a lot of Warden healers forget, like, Resto Staff already does healing when you weave, but then when you add it with Lotus Blossom, it is, you know, such a powerful heal. Dude. First off, let the tank do it. I can't even. I'm not even going to try to res him at this point. Why are you... Just get the blood balls. Okay.
hunger for more. Embrace the pain. Let me taste.
People that will.
Every cut, the power in your veins fills the air.
We do it one more time.
Release the power
Should be
within
now.
your
Yep.
blood. Let the feast begin.
Alright.
My lord will hear of this.
It's over. The ancient clan of Lady
That's
Thorn
fun.
is no more. Good riddance. I
But
need
yeah.
to speak with you about what I found in those documents.
I think once again, once alterations are made, I do honestly think they're going to revert some of the critical values back. The question now becomes, are we going to get a critical percentage modifier other than precise? You know, that's the lingering question, you know, in the back of my mind. Also, are we going to see scale factor associated in the same essence? Because when we take a look at Fighters Guild, now I don't have it unlocked, but as we're unlocking for each ability slotted, we're getting a percentage modifier of 3%, right? That's a scale factor. We also have that same association, well, not that same association, but a similar association into the medium armor passive and into our agility. Right? So we have that association as well. I mean, I just got done out of the dungeon. Anyway, so we see that association, but we do not have a similar situation associated in light armor. We only have flat values, or not flat values, but just, well, it's not a percentage modifier. They are flat values per. So scaled by what? You know, how many pieces we're utilizing. So those values aren't percentage based. One way to fix this is putting Prodigy at 0.5, right, per, versus the critical of a 219. So if we get a percentage 0.5 per piece, right, we could see an association. You could do 1%. You could go up to 1% if you wanted to per piece. That would give you a 7% modifier. And I do believe a gold precise, let's make sure, is 7%. So we would have an indifferent value associated. So hold on. No. So let's make sure. It's off the top of my head, but I think it's 7%. So we could have a potential indifferent value if there was an associated into the light armor versus a CP. And that's one way to address it. And then you wouldn't necessarily depending on your set bonuses, if you ran 2 critical set bonuses with your major savagery or your major prophecy at light, then you would also not want to go over 100% if you were utilizing kilt. Well, the kilt still would be questionable depending on the content, because of the cap. So you would still, question whether the kilt would be, a benefit into the build configuration if these changes were to be implemented. These these were to be implemented. So let's say if the precise, and I do think it's a 7%. We'll dick off here. So let's go ahead and reconstruct. I don't give a shit. Any kind of staff. If I can find a staff, all right here. So let's hypothetically say we were going to go with precise and we were going to gold it out. We would have a 7.2. So we could go with a 1%, so we would be less than an indifferent value, but we could have a 7% into light armor, but the penetrating value would be exceeding, but it would give us another percentage-based modifier. So I think that's one option that ZeniMax could be taking a look at and asking themselves, do they want to take the flat value and make it a percentage-based modifier to alleviate the necessity of everybody being pitted into one weapon trait or one type of configuration? I find that to be interesting. Even if they kept the value, the base value nerf, associated, without reverting back to the previous values, it would be kind of interesting. So I honestly think they should evaluate this moving forward. I'm not saying they should implement it. That's on them. But given the fact that we have multiple sources of spell and damage percentage modifiers, we have limitation on we only have one percentage modifier to crit chance. Even in critical damage modifier, we have more percentage based values than critical chance values. And these are questions that I often raise. Why are we restricting configurations based on limitations to resource? And once again, I think this is something that needs to be addressed. I honestly do. I really do. But, I just wanted to go over it, talk about it, and, say, okay, unless this is addressed, unless we're all moving forward, all of us. No, you could be a year out, multiple updates, multiple expand or DLCs, multiple chapters. We're all going to be running precise from this point on, unless we get a percentage based modifier somewhere else other than the trait value. So yeah, but don't let what would I know? I don't know anything, right? What would Mystic know? I don't know. Anyways, Silver, I hope you feel better. I want to thank everybody for stopping in. As always, I'm Mysticraven. This is Mystic's MMO, so let me check out the last comment. Harold. Morning! I was just about to end the stream, Harold. Have a good day, brother. I thank you for stopping in, Harold. But yeah, I think these are questions that need to be addressed. I think CP, we could see percentage modifier into the CP. That should be more associated, but you too. Thank you, man. Thank you. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do. We'll see what they decide down the road. But from this point on, I don't care what build you're running, what configuration, you're going to be sitting on precise trait until further notice. All right, as always, I'm Mysticraven. This Mystics MMOs. Have a good one, y'all.